Hello, wherever you might be watching me this moment, I'm here to drop a very brief notice to all and sundry. My major concern, of course, lies on the state of affairs within the Nigerian system. You know, the issues of recent time leave any sensible and responsible person uh, to begin to think where and how we get to this point as a nation. I have concerns, very strong concerns, very deep concerns. And my worries is that Nigeria as a state is at a crossroad. Nigeria as a nation is pregnant of uncertainties. And these uncertainties are almost at the point of delivery, at the point of pushing forth whatever uh, that have disturbed this country over the decades. Issues that has been unattended to, issues that have been begging for attention seems to have been neglected even by the concerned, those who are within the political arena, who call themselves the leaders of thoughts or leaders of opinion or political leaders within the system, possibly because of what they think they stand to benefit at the expense of the masses who are left at the mercies of whatever dictate, of course, they might bring to fall. Nigeria is pregnant with uncertainties, and this is becoming more very clear to us as the day rolls by. Everybody is apprehensive. No right thinking man could understand what is happening with Nigeria. It is almost becoming impossible to exactly know what is happening to Nigeria. Nigeria being the supposed democratic state seems to be very lawless. Everybody could do anything and get away with it. From the top to the bottom, people are doing whatever they think is best to them or whatever that protects their interests. And provided such interest is not jeopardized, is not at risk, they don't care whatever is happening. And unfortunately, we're almost at that verge of breaking, which no one can deny the realities on ground. You see, I will want to bring attention to very important things. Why do I say that Nigeria is pregnant with uncertainties? With the latest happenings within the Nigerian social, political, and economic sphere, it is very clear that as a country, we have lost direction, we have lost sense of responsibility and commitment to nationhood, because no nation could survive the extent of acrimony, the extent of bickering, division across ethnic and religious lines. We've never been divided in the history of Nigeria than what we have in the last 10 decades, or in the last decade, so to say, or close to 10 years now. And it appears that the nagging issues seems not to have been given the attention it so much deserves. But the fundamental question is, how long shall we continue to, of course, leave crucial issues untouched? white disaster looms. It is something no one can deny, except you decide, of course, to live in self-deception. Of most recent, you saw what is happening with the INEC Mahmoud Yakubu, having made several promises when the people thought they would get it right for once, when the people thought it is time to build a nation they could trust, a nation they could be proud to call their own. Of course, this led to the massive awareness that was created prior to the 2023 presidential election, which unfortunately was dashed. The hopes of millions of Nigerians, which are predominantly young stars, young, vibrant, energetic Nigerians who believe, of course, the possibility of a new Nigeria, but unfortunately was dashed because, of course, the powers that be wouldn't want to be dislodged from having a total grip of the political power, which, of course, give them the opportunity to control the resources that was meant for all at their own personal and selfish uh, consumption. It is quite sad indeed, but not just sad, but quite disappointing because everything seems to have been silenced. I mean, the voice of the teeming masses who are yearning for a new way of doing things other than, of course, the statu quo that have kept us in the wheel of motionless, stuck in the wheel of despair. And to this end, as if we are plagued or under a spell, the judiciary that seems to have been or believed to have been the hope of a common man almost unfortunately dashed whatever hope that is left about the emancipation and the redemption move by these young teeming populations of the youth to reclaim their own country and chart a way forward for themselves, as slightly been admitted that the future belongs to the youth, and the youth troop out, of course, in the millions to rewrite history. But unfortunately, such history never come to fruition. Now, the Supreme Court has given their verdict regarding the position of or the most controversial or contended presidential race in the history of Nigeria, with the plethora of evidence that was submitted by the opposition, which were contesting for the uh, legality and credibility of the elections that was conducted by Mahmoud Yakubu of INEC. Unfortunately, their prayers could not be heard. Their argument was dismissed, of course, on the basis of judicial technicalities, which is rather unfortunate, rather than being substantive, arguing based on the logic and the evidence that abounds. To this end, of course, you heard Mr. Peter B, who came to express his strong dissatisfaction over what he called the affirmation of the illegality or the most uh, controversial election, and that is quite sad. The same thing goes to Dati Ahmed, Baba Dati Ahmed, who also made his strong position that it is time for Nigerians to take over what belongs to them as a country. But unfortunately, for him and Peter B, it seems it is over for them. How true but sad these realities keep staring at us. But what can we do at this particular time? What I want to draw attention is, of course, the important issues happening within the Imo State, where I hail from. Imo State has been one of the most peaceful regions of the Eastern Heartland, of course, the center of the Eastern Heartland that is known for her serenity, hospitality, and calmness. But unfortunately, this is a place where every other Easterner within the Eastern region will want to spend his or her weekends, of course, to enjoy the serenity, the hospitality, and the warm reception of the environment and the atmospheric, of course, beauty of nature. But that is quite sad that such important elements of environment or existence seems to have eroded ever since Uzodinma took over the affairs of Imo State, having been affirmed by the same Supreme Court of Nigeria, being the substantive governor. After the election that saw him being the fourth position, which Ihedioha was overrun or, of course, uh, sacked out of office by the Supreme Court of Nigeria. As if that is not enough and we have not seen the end of these uncertainties and unfortunate uh, and deliberating uh, and what I call the most horrifying experience in the history of Imo State is about unfolding. Election is just today. By tomorrow, of course, everybody it seems to be going to the poll to decide who becomes the next president or governor instead of Imo State. But the way things are going, of course, everybody seems to be afraid and apprehensive of what becomes the fate of the Imolites and by extension Nigeria. There has been so much political instability in the region, I mean the eastern region. Some group, of course, are calling for the restoration of the Biafran state based on the current happenings because the political elite within the eastern region has failed the masses and the masses are left with no other option but to begin to seek for an alternative nation, a country where they will be proud to call their own, a country that have their interests at heart, a country they could identify where they can live out their aspirations and fulfill their dreams. And that is what is called home. But today, Imo State, of course, have lost that status of home because it is no longer safe for the inhabitants. And most communities have deserted, of course, their ancestral homes for, of course, scurrying for safety in the neighboring communities and towns, if not states, because of the obnoxious and heinous crime, notorious activities going on within these localities, which have almost crippled the entire socio-economic activities. And yet, the government seems to be indifferent. By the government, I mean those within the corridor of power seems to be indifferent about the plight of the masses. And everybody is left at the mercy of what happens to him. Nobody cares. If anybody goes down, provided their interest is protected, they don't care. Even when several communities, local governments in Imo State have been deserted, then I begin to ask a very fundamental question. Who is the governor governing? Is it governing the empty communities that have been ransacked? Most of the buildings have been blown up by the security operatives. There have been non-state actors, of course, taking undue advantage of the chaos system to unleash mayhem on the masses. And all these things could not be far-fetched. The reasons for all this evil that is pervading the entire state is because of the insatiable quest for power and greedy on the part of the politicians who has made life almost unbearable for their people, and that is quite sad. Now, the point of contention is what happened next. Everybody is at suspense. Nobody knows what happens. The next, nobody knows who goes down the next because everywhere has been saturated with fear and panic. And with this latest announcement of election, and from the statement coming from some political class, it appears that either we get it by force, by crook, or by force. We care not what anybody think about what is happening. We must protect our interests, our political interests. We must remain within the corridor of power to begin to continue to, of course, have full control of the resources of the state without asking any recourse, having any recourse to what is happening. Should service to humanity or to your state be a do or die affair if you stand not to get anything? Are you motivated by, of course, what you stand to get or to the service of humanity? Just as people make reference to Dr. Sam Mbakwe, Onunaka Mbakwe, as being living in the hearts of millions of Imolites by virtue of his selfless service to the people of Ndimo. Even when Imo State and Abia State were still the same, are considered as one. He did exceptionally well, and his records remains unbeaten. Then where do this crop of politicians who are just only concerned about their greedy quest, of course, to grab it all, where is it coming from? Did they learn it from Dr. Sam Mbakwe, who was considered to be the whipping governor? He worked because of the pains his people were passing through. He worked because he was fighting for the people. He denied himself certain privileges and, of course, right, to make sure that his people are more comfortable. But is that the case with the crop of politicians we have in the eastern region? Nigeria is pregnant with uncertainties. My attention and concern or worries is that no human society could be forever subjected and subjugated without the people, of course, are pushing back. It has come to almost to the brim where the people have been left with no other option than to push back. And this pushing will result to unimaginable level of revolution that have not been seen in the history of mankind. Then are the politicians not aware that the masses have been pushed to the wall? Are they not aware that an average Easterner is not happy with what is happening within the Nigerian system? So why should the governments of the regions that have felt so much oppressed and depressed, sidelined by the Nigerian system, add more to the pains of the people, aggravate the worsening situations, economic situations, political and otherwise of the region and its inhabitants? But I want to draw the attention of those concerned that they should be aware that that is human nature. Humanity is configured in such a way that a time comes when they will resist vehemently any attempt to continue to subjugate them and oppress them And this will not, of course, continue if they care to know. So the better, of course, take decisive steps to address these anomalies before it gets out of hand, something they could not control. Unfortunately, they might think they have the military, the police. Just see how Imo State has been militarized. Is it an election or is it a declaration of war? Nobody knows what happens, but the reality is that some will lose their life for no justifiable reasons. It is so unfortunate, but then whatever happens, there are moments of accountability. Anyone saddled with the responsibility of occupying public office will one day give account of how he or she runs the affairs of the country. It might not be immediate, but certainly will not run away from such, of course, demand for accountability. It could be direct or indirect, but the reality is that for every action, there are reactions. What I'm saying, in effect, in a sense, is that this crop of politicians should understand that Nigeria is in a crossroads. Of course, you've heard about the no election in Imo State coming from Simon Ekpa. That will also aggravate the pains and agonies of the masses resident within this society. And of course, you know what that means. There could be brutal assaults against the defenseless masses and intimidation on the parts of the supposed security operatives who might, of course, take advantage of the chaos or being paid to do so. Some of them might resort to abuse of the fundamental rights of the people, which negates the provisions of the law. But come to think about that, does Nigeria have regard or respect to the rule of law? Is another, of course, issue to discuss in the next edition. But my attention is to pay very critical attention to what is unfolding gradually but consistently. My worries are that one day, anytime the Nigerian state forces the agitators to take up arms instead of placards in demonstration of their fundamental right of secession, of self-determination, then Nigerian government is finished. Why I said so? Because prior to the, of course, at the inception of the renewed agitation for the restoration of the Biafran state, people were just taking off placards, demonstrating on the streets, which most of them, if not tens of thousands of them, were killed and murdered in cold blood by the security operatives who think that is the only way to suppress the people and get them back to the shell. But they never knew they were paving a way for a more destructive, a more stubborn resistance on the parts of the masses who believe that is the only way for survival, who believe that that is the only hope of existence as a people, that they must get out of this country called Nigeria, which is no longer fashionable for them based on the current realities, which nobody can deny, even as of today. A bag of rice is 60,000. When has such happened in the history of Nigeria? Even that a worker, an average Nigerian worker, could not afford a bag of rice. Within 2 months, if he fails not to touch his or her salary, it won't be enough to buy a bag of rice. It is quite sad that many people are wallowing in abject poverty, depression and suffering, which are needless. If the government and those political elites have done what is right, have been accountable to the masses, and been responsible, of course, to the call to duty for the fatherland and their own, of course, humanity. It's rather unfortunate that Nigeria has become a laughingstock in the Committee of Nations. And that has, of course, plunged the economy of this country abysmally. Nobody knows the direction or the policy direction or what this country holds in the next day, let alone talking about the next month or the next year. And of course, you know what happens that no any responsible multinational will want to invest in such level of uncertainty where insecurity is at its peak, where people are losing their lives and source of livelihood on a daily basis, where millions are joining the wagon of multi-dimensionally poor citizens of Nigeria. Is there any glory in poverty? Is there any glory in suffering? Is there any glory in insecurity? Is there any glory? Is there anything to rejoice about the country we found ourselves, where an average young man will always want to jet out of the country at the slightest opportunity, not having any recourse to remain in his supposed country, but desires a foreign country other than staying in his own supposed country because of how frustrated the country has become instead in the most recent times. As fathers and grandfathers have told us the story about Nigeria, that things will be better, things will be better. But how long? Decades rolling, days and months flying, and things are getting more worse than ever imagined. Then does it seem that everything is at ease, is at peace? Because what we are seeing is just an army of resistance that is being built against the states by the same instruments of the states. The intimidation, as I rightly said, I was scared because I said any day the Nigerian security operatives forces the masses of these agitators to take up arms, it will become very difficult for Nigeria to win the war. Why? Because they have hardened the hearts of the people and forced them, of course, to become hardened and resort to the use of ammunition for self-determination or self-struggle. That spells out the doom for Nigeria and her inhabitants. No wonder of most recent, the U.S. have given the security brief to all the embassies and the citizens that they should be very careful and restrict their movement, of course, to certain regions and places. But the reality is that no part of the Nigerian state is safe. All the six political zones are restive. There are spikes of insecurity. There are killings on daily basis, if not weekly basis, in hundreds of citizens losing their lives and properties. And yet the government appears to be silenced, or perhaps its body language seems not to show some level of commitment and concern over the plight of the masses. Now, that is just but a time bomb, buying time, just ticking. Unfortunately, we are trapped in this quagmire. The students are not happy because of the condition of studying, where they take their lectures are not conducive. The market women are not left in this, of course, very sad experience. Not even the workers, who unfortunately even their take home is no longer possible to take them home, let alone to sustain their entire families. And it's rather unfortunate, and this will navigate, of course, and redirect us to the cliff of course, as it slightly is, Nigeria is heading for the cliff, and nobody knows when and how it will end. But from the realities unfolding, it means there could be a very irreversible end and more destructive ends if the political elites fail to apply cautions. The intimidations and taboos of wars that is going on in Imo State does not encourage coexistence, does not, of course, support the societal norms of which the average Igbo man is known for. Igbo man is known, of course, and believes in the ideology and principle of Ebe Bere Ugo Bere. You see, but that seems not to be what is tenable this moment. As some Ebes are saying that the other Ebes has no right to swear. Of course, the atmosphere is very open to all. That is the ideology and belief and principle of an average Igbo man. That the earth is so large to contain, to accommodate us. Why should others be killing just to occupy and continue in the seats of power when even it is very clear that the people has rejected them? It is quite sad. Just in the next few hours from now, you'll be hearing stories of what is happening in Imo State. Don't be shocked when you hear such very disturbing circumstances, because it is where we have found ourselves, and the so-called politicians are very desperate. By politicians, I don't just mean the Ozodema camp. Virtually all the politicians and average politicians in Nigeria, of course, close to 95% of them doesn't know why they are there. They are only there because of they want to leverage on the, of course, benefits of occupying such positions. They are not driven by the passion to serve humanity. They are there to make wealth for themselves and to their generations unborn, and of course, live, of course, out and gratify their senses. They are not there to serve humanities and intimidate those they feel the supposed enemies and force them to be silent. But how long will that be sustained? You see, of course, in the light of the realities, and some believe that no one has a monopoly of violence, and this will further escalate the worsen the situation, because the aggrieved parties might want to show some level of dissatisfaction by also recruiting their own hooligans, which will compound the already worsened state of security in Imo State and by extension Nigeria. In the coming days and weeks, it might not be very, of course, palatable for everyone, because the economy is biting hard. Imagine this struggle for survival has become so much difficult for an average worker to survive, let alone catering for the family and extended families, as the case is. It's unfortunate. Well, if you're watching me, let me hear what is your own take regarding these realities. These are realities that will no longer be denied, and it's rather unfortunate, of course, that we found ourselves at this state of despondency, state of hopelessness, when Nigerian state is endowed with all manner of resources that would have made us great, that would have put us at the global map of progress, but unfortunately without prosperity. Several millions, hundreds of, I'm 33 of more Millions of Nigerians are considered to be multidimensional people. You know what that means? In a country where more than 80 to 90% of our populations are considered to be poor, then that country is in a state of misery, is a state of extinction. And of course, the uncertainty has caught up with us, and it's quite sad that some are still living in the deceptions. Of course, thinking that by living in denial, they could move an inch, of course, of this problem. But that is not true. It is high time to confront these realities and hold those who should be held responsible, of course, responsible and accountable to the people. There is no set time than now, because the time bomb is already buying time to explode. And when that does, of course, they said don't throw stones because you never can tell who the stone will hit. Don't throw stones in the market square. It might hit someone close to you. It might hit your neighbor. It might hit even your son or daughter. That is the reality. So do not throw, those who live in glass houses should not throw stone. Every person's life matters. Black lives should matter most in Nigeria and Imo State, and not just in America. So why have we become so wicked to ourselves? Why has the police stations taken advantage of the masses? Believing that the masses, no one can challenge them. How true? How sure are you? Of course, you should learn from the France Revolution how they were able to dislodge all the political elites to get to where they are today. Is that what you're begging for? But if that is the case, you should expect it, because any society that is driven by the passion to build an egalitarian society, as first must get rid of certain political gladiators or get them out of power so that they can build a system that could be trusted. Nigeria is pregnant with uncertainty. Let me hear from the comment section, what is your own take regarding these realities? It's no longer deniable, because the truths are, we are catching up with the truths, and the truth is catching up with us, and that is the reality. It is quite sad, but my passionate appeal to those so-called political gladiators, the peace of my people are more paramount to me. The peace and tranquility of the Imolites are my major concern. The past, of course, has been our experience, and the present is our major concern, because there could not be a future if today is not preserved. So you should let my people breathe, not just breathing, but let the human dignity and sanctity of life be respected and upheld in the utmost respect. So those political gladiators, or hooligans, if I may say, who has been paid to disrupt, of course, the public peace, should find their way out of Imo State. And the government of Imo State should not in any way engineer, of course, such a criminality in any disguise. Coming your way this moment is Chigos and Debo. Wishing you all the best. But then don't forget to know that the set time is now. We must get it right in a lifetime, because this battle cannot be shifted or passed on to the unborn generations. We have the right to fix these nagging issues in our time. We cannot continue to blame our forefathers who have failed us or who could not accomplish this great feat. We have the enormous responsibility saddled on us, of course, finishing the fight. Humanity must be liberated at this time. Of course, there's no other option, alternative left out of slavery. If we don't fight now, we will remain perpetual slaves. Today's unguided, greedy political elites who has taken undue advantage of the masses and the ignorance of the masses, of course, and how docile the masses have been in the most recent years. Most of the things happening in Nigeria would not be condoned by our Kenyan brothers, our Ghanaian brothers, our Cameroonian brothers. Even here in Benin Republic, they can't tolerate such a nonsense from the political class, cannot take undue advantage of them. But that is quite sad. That is the experience and the realities unfolding within the Nigerian state. It's quite sad again, honestly, and indeed. Well, I leave you with these provoking thoughts, and let's have what is your take regarding these issues until I come your way in the next edition. Don't forget, of course, to give us a like and share this video. Let it get to everyone, of course, across the globe, across the Eastern region, to know that things are no longer at ease. As exactly submitted by the lesser Chino Achebe, that things has fallen apart, and the center, indeed, will no longer hold. When the essence and primary responsibility of governance seems to have been defeated, it no longer matters to those political gladiators. The safety and security of us masses or the citizens, that it means that is something fundamentally wrong for the Nigerian system, which needed an urgent and prompt actions to be taken by the people. The salvation of the people lies with the people. Power, they say, belongs to the people. Not until the people rises to say enough is enough. The few political greedy, of course, elements will continue to ride on them and decides their future. It is quite sad. Good night. Wherever you might be watching me from now, wishing you all the best. It's Chigozie Ndebo.